Where the previous chapters, there was definitely easy stuff to go off of, and I kind of took the safer route, I think, when it came to my last review, predictions rather, for chapter 72, when I was just trying to figure, okay, what's going to happen next? Because chapter 71 was laying out all the fights, and I was like, well, okay, well, are we going to get, like, maybe a further progressed chapter of the fights and just kind of see aspects of them before we get into primaries, or are we going to just get a main, like, a focus fight? And we kind of got both, but the chapter now, like, like, the whole idea in the previous chapter is, okay, we're in fights. Like, they're all grouped up, and then there was kind of, like, stuff to look at, and it's like, alright, I'm guessing the next couple fights, you know, we'll go down either in the next chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, who knows when it comes to the extent, but you know the events that have to proceed. Like, obviously there has to be some form of battle. There has to be some form of conflict between the main cast and the members of the Moonlit Beauty Gods who Selene has sent to come, you know, do whatever tasks and battles against the main cast, you know, because she wants to have fun with them, and it looks like the Moonlit Beauty Gods want to test them to see if they're worthy of, you know, being the playthings of Selene. But for chapter 73, because it ends with them all obviously losing, and then Selene's like, oh, you know, bring him back here, don't kill him, because she wants to do something with him. She's got a plan. And that's really where I've been building this up to, because we don't really have anything to look at, like, the previous chapter and then say, oh, well, this next chapter, you know, based off this, we're gonna, you know, have some form, like if Selene had, like, if she looked out in the window and had, like, a coliseum or a monster or something, it's like, oh, she's gonna have him fight this thing, or, you know, put him in a maze, some form of hint as to what's going on, but, like, all we obviously know is, like, okay, she's going to do some other game with them, and again, that's fine, but it's just, like, it leaves so vague that it's like we can't really build a lot of stuff off of it right now. The only thing I think that is really that much to gauge in this last chapter was when Ferris and Toko were talking about the Great White Priestess, and I think that's really interesting because if there's, like, some form of conflict, obviously, you know, whatever Selene's plans are with the main cast, how are they going to get away from her? Like, what will be the step for getting out of whatever Selene's next scheme is? And I'm assuming that this Grand Priestess is going to be, like, the character for that. I'm like, if she's a big deal, then I don't think she could take Selene, but if you had, like, a moment where she shows up and then, like, helps the main cast get away and is somehow able to, like, escape Selene for a moment, or, you know, some form of way just that would make Selene unable to detect them. Like, imagine, she's got some form of base that, because their ability to, like, wipe out magic, that it makes it so Selene can't sense them, or maybe it's just so far away in the realm that, like, she would have to go out and try and find them, kind of like when Achenologia was, you know, seemingly wandering around at the end of Dragoncry. I always assumed he was looking for the dragon gods, but he was just kind of, you know, wandering around. And the world's big, and same thing with Elentier. We can assume, you know, their world is huge too. And it's not like Selene has this instant ability, at least that we know of, to just know where people are. Like, if she had something just like, okay, if I get this ability on you, I will always know where your position is. Something like that, I'd say, well, okay, now, like, what's the plan of getting distance on this girl? But, like I said, the next chapter, I think, is just going to be, you know, further building up stuff and really laying things out. Like, when we got Alderon, we had more of an idea, generally, of where the arc was heading to. Like, we knew that we had the Dragon Eaters on the way. We knew that you know, who was, you know, Toka at the time, but we know now, you know, the White Witch that didn't actually tend to be the White Witch was actually Ferris. But we had a general idea of where things were progressing. We don't have any of that right now. And it's not like, say, like, when we were going into the Alderon arc, we knew that Ferris was heading there with, you know, controlled members of the Fairy Tail Guild. So there was an idea of where the conflict was eventually going to lead into. Whereas with Elentier, I keep forgetting to ask. Oh, no, not forgetting to ask. I keep forgetting to check because my headphones, they're wireless, and whenever they, like, try and want to double check the connection. There's that beep. Tell me if you heard that beep. It was like 15 seconds ago. It just kind of clicks really fast. But I don't know if like the OBS picks that up or what. But I just went off again. I don't know. I don't know if people can hear that, or if maybe I'm just crazy. But it's not the thing that actually I want to say that really is like the big thing that shifts what I mean when it's like hard to predict what's going on in Elentier this early. Is they're in another dimension. Like, they're in a different world. So it's not like characters could show up and help them. Like, say during the Alderaan arc that we got a way more focused fight with the Wolf and Gildarts, and it was like, that was going to be like a, its own big battle, and then Gildart shows up, and, that's something that could happen just because he could just arrive. You could have some way to connect him, going after Ferris and trying to see what happened to members of the guild. But here, like, they're in a different dimension, and then it's hard to even get the idea of, like, well, how would they get there? I mean, the Dragon Eaters are the only ones we know that are on the way, but we don't know how they're going to get there. So we're in a really weird crux. It's kind of like, I've mentioned in some videos, like, I generally want to get out an idea of how I think things are going to go. The only series I really do predictions on are Fairy Tail and Black Clover. I wanted to summon Eden Zero too, but like Eden Zero is the example I wanted to go for. It was like when Eden Zero first started, even though I know Kira Mishima and I've been reading his work for years, I didn't, early Eden Zero, you didn't know the world. So it was hard to really kind of like gauge an idea of events that could happen in the further story. Like, how could this event here somehow connect into what's going on here? Kind of like what's going on now. You got like Elsie and Justice going on, that with Cosmos and whatnot. Side Narrows making moves, but you know what I mean. When there's not a lot of layout of Elentier yet. Like, we only know what the Ferris, Toka, and then I was gonna say Selene and her crew, but I guess we don't know if they're from Elentier or if she brought them there or what the status is entirely on them. But counting them, there's 4 of them. So like, out of all of the people of Elentier, regardless of born there or moved there, we have 5 people? No, 6 people. Toka, Ferris, Selene, Yoko, Mimi, and Hakune. Yeah, there's not a lot. So it just makes it a little bit kind of odd to gauge, but what I'm really hoping for in the next chapter is, I generally just really want some more Selene exposition. I really want to know what Selene can do. I really want to just see like her step up and maybe just show a couple attacks, maybe a couple spells, or maybe just like she'll maybe like I like this idea of maybe she tries to challenge the main cast in 1v1. And we know that in direct combat of them versus a dragon god, they can't defeat a dragon god yet, even the whole group. The only reason, obviously, they made Alderaan is because the way that Alderaan's power worked is you had to defeat each of the god seeds to get him weak enough to where, he's way more within range, and then you're on a timer until his god seeds come back up, and then, he returns to full power. So his was very mechanically based on how he was defeated rather than an outright just kind of like group effort or power level increase or anything like that. It was how his powers are really rooted and the weakness to that. I mean, it really only is a weakness if you have a ton of people or unless you're obviously stronger than him, but like generally how it was, just having a lot of people all spread out from just obviously the events of what was going on in that arc. But other than that, I think that of just like Selene exposition, I would like to know a little bit more about her as an individual character, maybe her overall goal, and obviously what her plan is next. Is she going to make them, go through a maze? Is she going to make them fight each other? That'd actually be kind of cool. It's like she made it so like they have to spar or something, and you could have just a couple of them, go at it, and maybe that's where you would see like members of the group with their upgraded abilities, because we know that there are, general increases in Elentier. We know the spiritual art stuff is, now revealed, so we don't know where exactly that's going to go towards the main cast. Like, Wendy has a grasp on it, but I'm wondering, like, are they all going to get a spiritual art ability, or are they going to learn a spiritual art that improves their primary abilities? But outside of that, it's like, what is, like, their evolved state of their power going to be? Because Lucy says that she doesn't have to have the keys on her. She has the contracts, and she has the ability to use magic, and she's used it before, so she just, opens the gates regularly. She has her spiritual, or celestial spirit magic and whole grasp on the spatial magic aspect of celestial spirit magic increased drastically. And it was in a way that she didn't even know at the time. So these guys don't have an idea currently of where their power level sits. It's kind of like at the start of the Grand Magic Games. Like, they all got their second origin, and they trained those last couple days before the tournament actually started. But because they didn't have a lot of time, they weren't really too sure of, like, how much stronger they were. They didn't really have an idea of where do we sit at now? What kind of abilities are we going to, or what kind of abilities do they have? Where do we stand with this? So I'm really looking forward to this next chapter. It's a struggle just because I want to do predictions. I want to, obviously, especially within the 2-week span, try and get an idea of what's going to happen next. But it's difficult when there's not a whole lot to work off of. But at the same time, it makes it exciting. So I'm really, I want the chapter, obviously. I hate waiting, but it is what it is. And at the end of it all, the end of everything, I just want more Selene. Selene content of some kind is what I'm really looking forward to. Because Mishima had, like, the first dragon god, Merciful, he's like a reformed dragon. He's actually a really nice guy. And then Alderaan was, like, more of just, like, outright vile and evil. And then Selene is obviously way more tricky and vicious and tactical. And then Ignia, it seems to be just, like, an overwhelming, like, calamity. Viernes is going to be the odd one out, I feel. I feel like he's going to be crazy. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to him, he'll, like, have emotional and, like, psychological damage. Because that could be why he just apparently is hiding all the time. Like, way more than others. Because Merciful said he never even met him. But all the other dragon gods seem to know each other. I am actually, just one thing I just wanted to put, slip this in there near the end of this, is, does Selene know about Viernes? Because Selene knowing Viernes would make sense. Like, Mercephobia seemed to keep in Elmina and the waters around it. Ignia just seems to go around destroying stuff and looking for battles and combat. And I feel like if he found Viernes, he'd probably want to fight him or something, or maybe they would just go into battle because Ignia is a hostile threat immediately. I would say out of all the ones we've seen so far, he is the one that if he showed up, like Actor Logit, we're just like, well, I'm gonna die. Like Alderaan seems like definitely around that area, but I think he would kill you before you even saw him, or he'd just be somewhere off in the opposite direction. Like, imagine him going in the opposite direction of you. You'd be like, yes, I'm never going to have to deal with them. He's going to just go on the other side of the world and go destroy there or something. And then, obviously, like, Selene is way more, she has more of a tricky presence, and then Mercephobia, he just seems like a nice guy. But, I don't know, something about Viernes, it gives me a little bit of suspicious vibes for him, and the whole fact that nobody seems to know him. But Selene logically should know him. Like, Mercephobia kept himself. Ignia, who knows exactly what Ignia has been fully doing over the course of time. It seems like he's just been going around causing destruction. Alderaan's been sleeping. Selene, though, with her ability to just completely travel through space and dimensions at will, could she have gone to wherever Viernes is to go see him, or at least know of where he is, or at least have met him once, And her knowing would make sense to me too, because she seems, at least so far, the smartest out of them. She seems very intelligent. Maybe not like a super genius, but she definitely seems above average intelligence, and like she's one of those people that always has a couple tricks up her sleeve, and she's kind of prepped for most of her opponents. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.